Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our political podcast. We call it The App. I always have to say this. It has nothing to do with computers. The App stands for Arklatex People and Politics. And we have a special guest with us in our studio today, Senator Bill Cassidy. Senator, always a pleasure.
Jeff, great to be with you, man.
Hey, look, I know it's the recess. They call it a recess, but it's almost busier for you when you're on a recess, right?
It is. We have been traveling the state.
Yeah.
And so I've been down to North Shore, New Orleans, Jefferson Parish, Lafayette, the Bayou. We've been covering the state, and yesterday Monroe, Ruston, and now Shreveport-Bossier. So it's good to travel the state, though.
Yeah, man, you get out there and you meet everybody, right?
Well, part of my job is to listen to my fellow Louisiana residents, take what they say and channel it into what do we do good for our state, for our country. I want to win and work for our state and our country, and listening to my fellow Louisianians, that helps me do that.
One of the things that's helping to create that winning, I guess, is the big, beautiful bill. That's what everybody, not talking about you, talking about President Trump's big, beautiful bill. It's so large and so encompassing. Tell us what's big or what's beautiful about it, what's good for the country and the state of Louisiana.
So one big, beautiful bill.
Yeah.
The fulfilled the president's, and there's 50 of us that voted for it, and I was one of the 50.
Yeah.
I think that's winning and working for our state and for our country. Fulfilled President Trump's campaign promises to no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. For those families with children, the $2,000 tax credit was going to fall to $1,000. We kept it at $2,000. Nope. We increased it to $2,200 and put an inflation adjuster. So if you've got 3 children, you'll get $6,600 in tax credits this year to help support your family.
Oh, that's a good thing.
That's a nice place to start.
Yeah, it is.
There is money, there's billions to control the southern border. There's billions to control the military. So Barksdale will have further support in its mission of defending our country, but frankly also providing some local economic support. That's also good.
Yeah.
Other things in the one big beautiful bill, we know long term, I'm a conservative. Government spending can't support an economy. Government spending can jumpstart an economy. We put tax incentives in there for businesses to create manufacturing jobs in the United States of America. You can't help but notice that China's been taking a lot of our manufacturing jobs out of the country. Let's bring them back. And this gives a tax incentive for the company to rebuild here, and when they rebuild here, they rebuild with American jobs, employing Americans with better benefits, better wages. That's winning and working for Louisiana, for our country.
Well, you mentioned one of the tax credit. There's the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. But that didn't go completely the way that was expected to go, right? The no tax on Social Security. How's that going to work?
Well, so those who, I forget the exact income level, but it's going to be over 80% of seniors, 90% of seniors.
Okay.
That if you go up to that level, then you're not going to pay taxes on your Social Security benefit. By the way, this kind of follows on something from last Congress that I really was helpful. It came to the Senate, I helped get it passed. But then President Trump also cooperated, which is we repealed last Congress the WEP and GPO provisions.
Yeah.
So for all the public employees, local and state, you were getting penalized for your Social Security benefit. And so we eliminated that last Congress. Jeff, so far, over about 100,000 Louisianians have received over $600 million in benefits of back pay.
That's great.
And it was coming through. And one of my Senate colleagues got up and said, we can stop this. And I got up and said, why should we? These are good Americans who paid in and they're being penalized. And then from my lips to President Trump's ears, he tweeted out, we should pass this bill. It happened, and it has passed. And so that's one more thing I want to comment about social. And if anybody has had a problem getting their WEP GPO back pay, call my office, we'll help them.
I may have my wife do that. She's a teacher.
She should.
And I may have her get in touch with your office for sure.
Okay.
But let me, I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but Social Security has been kind of one of your things over the past few years. And I was just reading some notes today about, it's going to go insolvent in 9 years, I think it is. Like
7 or 8.
7 or 8 now. And you have proposed something, a sovereign wealth fund, I guess, to help save Social Security. Please explain that.
So first, this is something President Trump suggested on the campaign trail, but I've put it into legislative language.
Okay.
From his lips to my ears in this case. And we're working and winning for our state otherwise. That creates an investment fund separate from the Social Security Trust Fund. An investment fund, we put $1.5 trillion into it and invest it into the U.S. economy. Now, the stock market goes up, stock market goes down, but all risk is borne by the fund. And what we do, we use it as it grows much faster than Social Security Trust Fund is growing. It grows much faster. We use that money to bail out Social Security.
Okay.
And we repeal the law that says that when the Social Security goes insolvent, that beneficiaries' benefits get cut up to 25%. So right now, if you're receiving social, when the trust fund goes zero in 7 to 8 years, by law, you get a 25%, 20 to 25% benefit cut.
Okay.
We repeal that law.
All right.
We pay you the benefits. We got to borrow some money to do so, but we offset that borrowing with the growth in this investment fund.
Okay.
And over 70 years, we end up paying 70 to 100% of the amount we need to pay to get rid of that debt.
Okay.
For some people, we increase their benefits. For example, there's some people who go back to work after age 65 and they get hit with a retirement earnings test, which means they can lose up to $1,000 a month from their social benefit. We repeal that. You go back to work, you keep that money, you keep your social.
Oh, that's a good deal. Now, the first time I ever heard the term sovereign wealth fund was in relation to Saudi Arabia and how they were funding sports programs and stuff over there. All the money was coming from their sovereign wealth fund. Obviously, those things work.
Like every country has them except us. Well, we actually have one. But the Canadians, every province has one.
Okay.
There's a federal sovereign wealth fund, if you will. Not a sovereign wealth fund, but the same principle of what I'm describing. Under George W. Bush, a good Republican, the Federal Railroad Retirement System was going insolvent. They did the same thing. They invested in the power of the U.S. economy, and that has bailed out that fund, which was going insolvent, and now they're paying all those retirees all their benefits, and they're firmly in the black. We need to bring that over to social, and if we do that, we'll pay all of our retirees everything they're owed, but we won't be driving up the national debt.
I'm liking that idea. Let's switch gears a little bit. You've had some big wins. Your halt fentanyl bill was a big win. I want you to talk about that, explain that in detail if you would, because that's been such a horrible thing for this country.
Everybody watching this, either in their family or they know of a family affected by fentanyl.
Yeah.
And it's so tragic. So for about 3 Congress now, about 3 to 4 years now, I've been working on something called Halt Fentanyl. It gives law enforcement one more tool to go against the people selling fentanyl. Now, let me just give a tip of the hat to President Trump. President Trump, when he got elected, he went after fentanyl. Biden, yeah, he cared about it, not really. Trump, when he shut down the southern border, he shut down not only human trafficking, but the trafficking of drugs.
Sure.
He went to the Mexican president. He said, Mexican cartels are pumping those drugs into our country. And we're going to put a tariff on you if you don't do something about that.
Yeah.
So the Mexican president sicked the Mexican army on the Mexican cartels and has sent them on the run. He went to China. He said, China, you're sending the chemicals that go to Mexico to make the fentanyl to come into my country. I'm going to put a tariff if you don't stop that. And as much as we can believe them, the Chinese Communist Party is trying to shut down that export of fentanyl precursors. Lastly, my Halt Fentanyl Act, again, gives law enforcement one more tool. He had a ceremony in the White House, big ceremony, and it's my bill, so I'm standing literally right behind him when he signs.
Yeah, I saw the video.
But it starts off with parents holding pictures of their children who had died from fentanyl overdose.
Horrible.
And like the 15-year-old with the knee injury went to the ER, was given opioids and got addicted, and later died 2 years later from a fentanyl overdose.
Wow.
So as the president signed it, he said this will be one of the most important bills we sign. Working closely with him, winning and working, unfortunately, because that we have to win and work on this one, but how do we fight back against fentanyl? And my Halt Fentanyl bill was one way.
Is it going to be effective? Is it going to keep it out of here?
Talk to law enforcement, they say it's one tool more.
Yeah.
And so again, President Trump shutting the border, going after the cartels, asking China, and then this as well. We need every tool we can to push back, and law enforcement is very pleased with this tool.
Oh, that's good to know, because I know, like you said, there's been so many families touched by this thing.
Yeah.
It's a horrible drug. I mean, it just takes like
Just a
teeny-
small amount.
Yeah.
A small amount, and now they're lacing different things. So somebody buys a pill off the street and they think it's a sleeping pill,
Yeah.
but it's got fentanyl in it. So one of the messages, you only take a pill if your doctor prescribes and your pharmacist gives.
Yeah.
We had a similar ceremony in Baton Rouge with law enforcement across the state, from parents across the state. And one parent gave the story about how his son, a church music minister, couldn't sleep. Someone at church gave him a pill, and he died of a fentanyl overdose.
Wow.
So that was as benign as you can imagine, but it ended up in the death of a young person. So all that to say, don't take a pill unless the doctor prescribes and the pharmacist gives.
Yeah, makes complete sense. Talk to me a little bit about your other work on, you chair the HELP Committee, Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, which to me seems weird to group all of those things together. Talk to me about your work on that committee.
Well, I said the health, education, labor, and pension is all about the American worker. And so that's how I went and worked for us all.
Okay.
For example, some of President Trump's nominees go through there. And so his Secretary of Labor, who President Trump really wanted, she was running into some problems on the committee. One of my Republicans, Rand Paul, wouldn't vote for her. So I was the one that had to go out and figure out how to get two Democrats who always hate whatever Trump does to support her, so we could overcome that majority. Overcome Rand Paul's negative vote. But we've got other stuff we're doing on that committee. We got to lower the cost of medical insurance. We got to lower the cost of prescription drugs.
Yeah.
One thing we've been working on is something called PBM reform. And PBMs are the middlemen that kind of take a little bit of a slice for doing their work in the middle.
Right.
But that slice has grown and grown and grown.
PBM, Pharmacy Benefit Manager.
Pharmacy Benefit Manager is kind of an insurance company for drugs. And their slice has grown and grown and grown, and we are the ones paying for it. We're trying to lower the cost of prescription drugs and the cost of insurance.
I'm sure you're aware that became a big deal over the last couple of days of the last legislative session in Louisiana. I don't think it was ever properly resolved, was it?
No, it didn't work out well here, and we almost got it passed in Congress, last Congress. We didn't quite, but I think we will this time. It actually saves money. It saves money for the individual, it saves money for the federal government, and we're going to use some of that money to support community health centers. At least that was our intent and is our intent. And community health centers are out there. You have David Raines up here providing care for those who otherwise won't have care. So we're trying to work in a variety of ways for the health of your pocketbook and for your physical health as well.
Yeah, I know this is a state issue, or at least, it doesn't really affect what you do in Congress, but I know you know about this, how CVS got involved and were basically threatening to close down 121 pharmacies in Louisiana, et cetera, et cetera. That was not and it's resulted in like 2 or 3 different lawsuits from the Attorney General. That was not a cool deal, I didn't think, by CVS, did you?
Well, CVS, I don't quite understand why they would shut down their their pharmacies if they've got a problem with a PBM. Yeah. Because that's actually theoretically 2 separate sides of their business. And so it seems more like a threat than it actually would be because it hurts their bottom line.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of independent pharmacists would say that CVS has used their PBMs to drive independent pharmacies out of business. So it's a complicated issue. PBMs actually serve a function. They absolutely serve a function. And I'm not beating on them just to beat on them.
Right, yeah.
But when you can't help but notice that their margins have grown and we are paying for it. If they bring their margins back down to what's like kind of reasonable, then I think the pressure will ease on the PBMs.
I think what they, again, after I'll make this comment and we'll move on, but I think what they decided, and it didn't pass ultimately, is that I think it passed in the House but not the Senate, is you can be a PBM or you can be a pharmacy, but you can't be both. That was, I guess, the solution to the problem, but it didn't go through. So.
Yeah, they say they keep the 2 businesses divorced, and they can spin off one. I'll just say that there's evidence that I've uncovered as chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension that programs that are meant to lower the cost of prescription drugs for Medicare patient, Medicaid patient, and the uninsured are instead going to PBM profits. Now, there's a problem there. There's a real problem there. You shouldn't be diverting dollars that are supposed to save us money to increase the value for your stock share.
Yeah.
That's not good for the American people.
Well, I mean, that's right up your alley. For those of you who don't know, this is Dr. Bill Cassidy in addition to being Senator Bill Cassidy. So I trust your judgment on all of those issues. You know exactly what you're talking about. Flipping around again. Troops in the streets of Washington, D.C. What are your thoughts?
I think that it's important that we establish that you can actually bring safety to the American people, that you don't have to tolerate high levels of crime. And the president is establishing that right now. Now, of course, I'm concerned about Shreveport. I'm concerned about Monroe and Alexandria and Baton Rouge and Lafayette and New Orleans. I would rather that there be more resources coming to local law enforcement and more emphasis that local DAs prosecute. Because having National Guard troops in every town is not the solution.
No, in fact, that's funny you said that, because just last night in the studio, somebody said, well, the president's talking about Chicago next, and what about Shreveport? We got a problem here.
Yeah, your problem's getting better.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But that said, you know, we need more local law enforcement.
Yeah.
So if there's going to be federal dollars spent for local law enforcement, that's been done in the past. Mm-hmm. Get control of it. You also need, though, good prosecution. You need somebody that once somebody is arrested, you put them in jail. And you also have to recognize that being soft on juveniles has meant that gangs get juveniles to commit crimes. So we've got to have a fuller understanding of the problem. I'm glad the president is showing we can control the problem if we put the will out there. Now we need to have the whereby.
Well, it certainly seems to have helped pretty quickly in D.C., doesn't
it? It has. Now, some of the crimes I heard are a little ticky-tack. But that said, if you're a criminal, you're staying off the street right now.
Well, I mean, you're obviously in D.C. a lot. When you walk around, do you feel unsafe?
You know, I walk to my office, I walk home. I walk to my office, I walk home. And so now I may be walking home at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But I feel safe because I'm, you know, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
On the other hand, you can't help but notice that some young intern gets shot, or somebody, or the crime statistics. And so I know the city is safer.
That's good, right?
That's great.
That's a good thing. You may or may not know this. I don't know. I mean, the president talking about going to Chicago now. I mean, does he have the authority to do that?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either.
But I don't know that. But I think you'd have to. In D.C., that is actually under the jurisdiction of the federal government.
Right. Yeah.
So he can do that.
Yeah.
Now, Chicago's got a problem. But I'll go back. They got a problem with prosecution. They got a problem of not supporting their police.
Yeah.
And so how do we help the city, every city, including Shreveport, or any other city in Louisiana? Baton Rouge, I think, has got a higher per capita rate, and New Orleans is New Orleans. So how do we support our local cities? And there's programs that you can do that. By the way, the Halt Fentanyl Act is one way.
Yep.
It gives prosecutors another way to go after bad guys in terms of something they're doing wrong, without giving them a legal excuse.
Hey, you know, we got off this topic, and I shouldn't have, but you're talking about helping to lower drug prices. What else can be done to help lower drug prices?
So one of my friends said there's no silver bullet to lower the cost of prescription drug, but there is silver buckshot. Now, some of this we've already done.
Yeah.
Last Congress, when President Trump's first term, I passed something called the Eliminate Gag Clauses, which President Trump signed into law. PBMs would cancel the contract for a pharmacist if the pharmacist told you it was cheaper to pay cash than to pay your deductible.
Okay.
Your deductible is $90 and it's only a $15 pill.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't tell you. So a pharmacist from Louisiana came, told me about this, wrote a law, passed it, President Trump signed, and we eliminated gag clauses as an example of silver buckshot.
All right.
But the PBMs, going after that extra margin, that'll be another silver buckshot. Okay. The president is suggesting, and I think he's right, that there has to be some correlation between what we pay for drugs in the United States and what is being paid overseas. Mm-hmm. Right now, if you have a prescription drug which is this much in Canada, it can be that much in the United States. Why is that?
Yeah.
So can we decrease that? He's got some ideas on that. If his ideas fall through, if they're stopped by lawsuits, I'll be working on a law to do that as well.
Well, I guess, as just somebody that goes to get their prescription filled, there's so many elements to this. It's crazy. You don't think about all these different elements that go into the cost of filling a prescription or creating a drug. There's also the cost of research and development, right?
There all is that, but why is the United States paying for like 100% of the research and development?
Yeah,
and the others are getting a free ride?
Yeah.
There's some cases, which I think is particularly wrong, when a cancer drug is off patent and it might be $100 in Canada and it can be $3,000 here.
Yeah.
Now, there's ways in which that is done to manipulate the law to allow that to happen. And again, that is wrong.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things I've been working on. The president is working on. We're together on this. That's how you can win and to work for people's pocketbook.
Yeah. Another thing I know you've been working on a long time. I think you get kind of angry about it in Louisiana. Is the flood insurance program here.
Yeah, the flood insurance program. So you flooded here. In 2016, I went with Sheriff with Julian from Bossier and went over on the Red River. And I remember going out there, Jeff, and I said, "Is that the bank?" And the sheriff said, "That's not the bank. That's the bank." The water was so high, you couldn't tell where the bank was. So if you are in Bossier right now, you may be paying unaffordable rates for flood insurance, even though you've done things to protect your home. We have been working on that. I've had a variety of ways. One way to lower your flood insurance is not to flood.
Yeah.
So in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which I helped write, we had $3 billion to help decrease risk of flooding, prioritizing areas that had flooded in the previous 10 years. So think of the areas that flooded in 2016.
Right.
Those grants have come out. Hundreds of millions have come to Louisiana already to address that. There'll be more coming. Also along our coast, we have lots of flooding.
Yeah.
Why is that important, by the way? That's the coast. It's not North Louisiana, because they make your rates based upon statewide averages. So if the coast is flooding more, North pays more. So we've got money down on the coast to rebuild the coastline that makes it less likely they flood. That can lower premiums. Lastly, the flood insurance program.
Yeah.
We've been working on that as well. We've been working for I think 8 years now, maybe 10 years.
I'll be honest with you. I do not understand how flood insurance works. It's beyond me.
It's supposed to be upon your risk, but they don't judge your risk in a very good way.
Okay.
People who have never flooded are seeing their premiums skyrocket. And so people who've elevated their home, people who are behind a levee, they're seeing their premiums go up. So we're pushing FEMA to take into account, wait a second, they just raised their home. Why are they having to pay flood insurance premiums of this level as opposed to that level? We're pushing for reforms. That's, you got to win and work for people's pocketbook, and this is how we win and work for someone's pocketbook.
I hope that all works out because the folks need it.
Yeah.
No question about that. I saw you a couple of weeks ago down in Baton Rouge when Secretary of Education Linda McMahon was visiting Louisiana. That was a good visit, wasn't it, by her?
It was a good visit. It kind of acknowledges that Louisiana's test scores have been doing better than other states, and we were 49th, and now we're much better. I have a particular interest in something called dyslexia. You've interviewed my wife before. My wife is the CEO of 4 public charter schools for children with dyslexia, and there's one down in Arthur Circle, Louisiana Key Academy, which is going very well.
Good.
And dyslexia, 20% of our population is dyslexic. And if you're watching now, I'm speaking to you. You're the person who, when they asked you to stand up in elementary school and read, you couldn't read. And all the other children would laugh at you. They would ridicule you. Your parents saw that you were smart. They thought you were maybe didn't want to work. You just couldn't read.
Yeah.
And so if you teach that child how to read, she or he achieves their potential. If they never learn that different way to read that dyslexics do, then they may grow up illiterate. Literally, they can't read for the rest of their life. And that means their future, instead of going like that, it goes like that.
Yeah.
So with Secretary McMahon and my committee, one of the things I'm emphasizing, how do we care for dyslexics? That 20% of our population is struggling.
How hard is it to figure that problem out? How hard is it to diagnose as a child that they are dyslexic?
If you don't look, you never find.
Well, that's true.
But if you screen when a child is in kindergarten or first grade, you can see who's at risk, and then you do further testing and you make the diagnosis.
Okay.
And so what I really am interested in is pushing for nationwide screening on the kindergarten or first grade level. Louisiana requires states to report how many children they have diagnosed with dyslexia, and many parishes will diagnose 0. So it's 20% of the population,
Yeah.
but they're diagnosing 0.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Doesn't make sense. So that's why it's important for a parent. If their child's bright, they can tell the child's bright, but like can't read, they may be dyslexic and they should be screened.
Yeah. Hey, look, I think we got about 2 or 3 minutes left here. I wanted to ask you about your campaign, but before I do that, is there anything else you want to emphasize here?
There's just a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah.
I mentioned the $128 million coming for Barksdale.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to get some money for Centenary, just to help galvanize Centenary's mission of educating people, not just from Shreveport, from across the state. Mm-hmm. There's money for the I-20 corridor. We continue to work for Amtrak connecting Dallas and Atlanta. Yeah. And of course that connects Shreveport, Bossier with Ruston, with Monroe, with those 2 cities. So we continue to work on that economic development. I'm about winning and working for North Louisiana.
You were just in Ruston yesterday, right?
I was.
For the big, the announcement of the microchip thing down there.
Well, I missed the microchip, even though I've supported that through the CHIPS Act.
Okay.
But I was with other groups, and then also went to a pro-life group. I'm pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-oil and gas, I tell people. But also went to Life Choices, which is an incredible ministry for young ladies or women who are pregnant and do they want to abort or give their child up for adoption. And Life Choice makes it easier to make the choice for life.
Yeah, that's a good thing. But going back, I know you weren't there, but the chips, that's a big deal for Louisiana.
It's a big deal. And Ruston's done a really good job of taking its strengths and parlaying that into something positive for our state. And so it's really good.
There's been some nice wins in this state recently. A lot of big factories and plants coming here.
$1.5 billion investment here near the port.
Yeah.
There's billions of dollars being invested down in southwest Louisiana. There's billions of dollars in parishes, like places that you've never thought would have that kind of investment. They're having that kind of investment. Yeah. So I think, and believe me, I've been working on this, putting together the tax policies that would encourage these industries to build in the United States, knowing that because of Louisiana's geology, our access to rivers to transport goods, our access to pipelines, our natural gas, our workforce, you put it all together. If you put the tax credit there, then most likely that industry is going to locate to Louisiana.
All right, that all sounds good. Now let's close with this. Your campaign, you launched it a couple, 3 weeks ago. We talked the day that you launched, and just tell us how it's going.
Campaign's going extremely well. Getting support from folks all across Louisiana. Yesterday, a woman in Monroe walks up to me and just was almost in tears for something that I had helped as regards her father, and just gave her great peace at the end of her father's life. As one example. Another person who walked up from a community college, work I've been doing in the HELP committee that will help community colleges help our people upskill to take a new job. So just to thank me for that. Another person walked up and was involved in early childhood education. Again, thanking me for the work I've done. And I can go across the state. Now they say that when you're working and winning for people, they tend to vote for you. That good policy is good politics. And I can look across our state, here in Shreveport, Bossier, as an example, where where the BRF, they got a BRF in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge and BRF here, but the BRF here, John George comes up and says, because you've helped us with this equipment, Shreveport's going to become the center of this industry, a new way to treat cancer. And I'll make Shreveport the center of that across the world. Thank you very much for helping Shreveport with that. That's been my goal. I've found partners to work with. I'm winning and working for Louisiana. I think it's a good message for my campaign.
All right, Senator Bill Cassidy, thanks for being with us again.
Thank you, Jeff.
Always a pleasure. You've been watching the app, which stands for Arklatex People and Politics. That is our political podcast. We speak to everybody across the political spectrum. We appreciate you being with us. The app is available on all major podcast platforms and all KTBS digital platforms as well. Have a good one, everybody.
Timber.
I tell you, it was like, wow, that's about 19.